Hey, what's going on, guys? Thanks for stopping by this video. Today I'm going to be talking about E3 2017 and the games I saw, things I was interested in, experiences I had, all of that great stuff. As some of you know, I was gone for a while. I was gone for, I believe it was 9 days, and I don't think I have been away from my channel for more than 7 days, or away from my desk here at home on any type of vacation or work trip or whatever since I started YouTube. So that was a long time to be gone. Had a lot of experiences, and I'm very happy to be home. So I'm gonna put timestamps in the description for certain types of things I'll be talking about if you want to skip ahead if you're bored because I ramble on. I'm sure this video is gonna be like 20 minutes long because I talk so much. If you're into that kind of thing, cool. If not, I understand. I'm uploading a lot of videos this weekend. Also, I wanted to mention I am wearing a sample of merch right now. I am not selling this shirt. I don't think I'm going to sell it. What I'm trying to do right now is get a merch line going for the summer, or at least back to school in the early fall. And my big thing that I tell companies, and I think this is, a lot of them are like, what? We've never been asked this before. My big thing is I need to be able to fit in the clothes that I'm going to be selling, because as a baker, I wouldn't sell bread that I wouldn't myself eat. So I don't want to sell shirts that I myself, as a tall, skinny human being, cannot wear. So I'm trying to find a tall shirt that fits. This shirt's actually tall, but it kind of smells like a Cheez-It. And I'm not a huge fan of just my logo on a shirt, but I guess we'll see where we're going with all that. I guess let me know your thoughts in the description on potential merch ideas. I have some of my own, but we'll figure that out later. I just want to point that out. I hope it's not too distracting during the video. Let's get into my experience at E3 2017. I'm gonna go through what I did from the 6th when I got there until the day I left, so that kind of goes a little bit in order. You should see it in the description. Also, I already said I'm gonna start talking about E3, but I did want to mention that I didn't record as many videos as I wanted to during this E3. I said before I left in a reply to a comment that I wanted to get at least 10 videos done, and I only got 5 videos made, probably, maybe 6 by the time I edit all of this footage that I have, because I kind of I don't like the whipping the camera out and talking to people culture. It's extremely fake because you act different on camera usually than you do in person. I've talked to many YouTubers, and you always have to hype yourself up or amp up your personality a little bit on camera. It's just weird to me. So I didn't pull out the camera as much as I wanted to, but I still got some footage. I don't think I got enough for shit from last week in real life, because when I was with my friends, we were all chill because it was such a busy week. We just want to hang out. So that's that in terms of the videos I'm going to be making. Let's start from the start of the week. I got into Los Angeles on the 6th, and I got there a couple of days before E3 to play Lawbreakers, the game from Boss Key Studios, Cliff Bleszinski's startup, coming from the success, massive success, creating Gears of War, to unretire, is how he says it, it's kind of crazy that he was in retirement. I mean, he made a lot of money. He made a shitload of money. He didn't need to work again, but you just look at him, he looks like such a young guy. I know he's much older than me. Not, he's not an old guy, but he's just, the fact that he made all that money and he had all that success with Gears is crazy, and he's coming back to make a game and pitch a game, and just, that's cool. And I got there early in the week, and Hova did too, my friend, mainly just to play Lawbreakers, because they were letting people capture a week before E3 even started. So we got there and went to play the game. It's very fun, and I have footage that I'm going to be uploading from that game soon. I'm excited about that game. They actually gave some sick merch away too. I've overpacked for E3. One of the E3 lessons that I learned for next year that I constantly forget year after year is that you get a lot of stuff if you go to E3. Even just as, they were selling tickets to the public, even just people that aren't, douche YouTubers like myself would get a lot of stuff from going there, because all the companies are promoting things and they're handing stuff out. So I broke a luggage bag just stuffing it with shit I got at E3. And the Lawbreakers swag was top tier, I will say. Some Converse Chucks with the Lawbreakers logo on it. The most comfortable sweatshirt I have worn in a while, and I lost it at LAX, so I put it in the lost and found request for that. And it's a cool t-shirt. But in terms of the game, let's get to the game. Very, very fun. However, there's definitely a skill gap, and I think that's good. I think it's good to have a skill gap. You'd rather have the game be a little more difficult to learn versus, all right, this is kind of mindless, and I'm kind of through with that. Maybe you would say Star Wars Battlefront last year was kind of in that category where it's a little too easy. You'd rather have it be a little too hard. However, I'm worried it's going to fall into the Overwatch category with me, where I play a lot of games casually. I don't really like the idea of just focusing on one game. My channel is about this one game, because then the life cycle of my channel is attached to the life cycle of that game. And you could argue that my channel's already dead because it was attached to one game for a certain, like, too long, a certain period of time. But just going forward, I mean, all I can control is the future. I don't want to attach myself to games. I like to play them casually, and some games I play more than others. I'm worried that playing Lawbreakers casually will be difficult because of the skill gap. However, it was extremely fun. One of the fastest games I've ever played in terms of my reaction time. I was thinking to myself, man, if I was 16 again, this would be a lot easier. As a 26-year-old, I feel like kind of a grandpa trying to move around all fast, but I got the hang of it after a while. I will say, I don't want to make it sound extremely difficult, because it just takes a while to master all the controls. We were playing for 3 hours, I think, 3-4 hours, which is longer than a lot of studios let you play the games for at E3. And that's about as long as you needed, because I didn't master the game, certainly, but I was going even or slightly positive by the end of the play session, which is more than I can say for a lot of games that I play. So that's Lawbreakers. I'll have footage going up later in the week. And now, let's talk about EA Play and Star Wars Battlefront 2. EA Play was pretty crazy this year. They had a lot of YouTubers out at the event. I saw a lot of people I don't normally see, and they rented out Electronic Arts rented out the Hollywood Palladium, a famous historical building in Los Angeles. It was cool to be inside that building. I was in the room for the EA press conference when your boy Jesse from Prank vs. Prank kind of had a bit of a screw up on the live stream, and it was so very cringeworthy for sure. But I felt for him because there were so many people watching the live stream, and everyone in the room knew what happened, but a lot of people at home probably didn't know what happened. His teleprompter went out. We sat through 3 dress rehearsals before. So for those, I mean, I played Star Wars Battlefront on the live stream at the end of EA's presentation. There was 30 minutes of live stream Star Wars Battlefront 2 gameplay. I was one of the players. So we were just sitting in the room basically for the entire press conference until the end. And we had to sit through the entire press conference 3 times by the end of it, because they did 2 dress rehearsals, one the day before and one the morning of. Jesse wasn't at the dress rehearsal the day before. I'm sure this has been covered. He made a vlog about it. I didn't watch it, but I'm sure he talked about it. He wasn't at the dress rehearsal the day before, but he was at the one in the morning, and his teleprompter went out then as well. And some other teleprompters were going out. And I think I don't know a lot about, you know, what was going on in there, but the Palladium is an old building, and it was a really cool venue, but I'm sure there were just some really difficult technical things to work through when you have that much stuff going on in this one building and you're moving from shot to shot. Things happen. So at the dress rehearsal that morning, his teleprompter went out, and then I was just standing and talking. I was sitting next to White Boy 7th Street, someone I've known on YouTube for a really long time, and I love talking to him in person. He's a very nice guy. You know, everyone has their own YouTube personality. He's kind of cocky on the internet, but super nice guy in person. And I was sitting talking to him, some of my other friends, and Jesse walked by, and Jesse recognized White Boy. I don't know how they know each other, but White Boy was like, "Hey, good luck, man. Don't mess up," or something like that. And Jesse's like, "Oh, you know I'm gonna mess up." Just kind of happy-go-lucky. And then later on, White Boy was saying, "Man, I wish I wouldn't have said that to him," because it was just bad. But I knew what happened, and I like I said, I felt for the guy. But if my teleprompter ever messes up in a rehearsal, I'm gonna mentally prepare myself thinking I'm not gonna have that teleprompter when the live shot is on, because it just kind of collapsed, and that was crazy. But I mean, I spent too much time talking about that. Let's talk about Star Wars Battlefront 2, a game that I didn't really have feelings on one way or the other. Not hype. I was just kind of in the middle. I played it, and I really liked it. I'm a huge Star Wars fan. My dad got me into the movies as a young child. He was kind of like, you know, some people will get their kids into religion, like, here, I'm gonna read the Bible to you every night. I'm gonna bring you up. Let's be political. I'm gonna tell you all my political views, and you're gonna share those political views with me. My dad was like, you're gonna watch Star Wars, and you're gonna fucking like it. And I did. You know, he didn't threaten me. I just liked it without, he probably was gonna make me like it anyway, or at least he wanted me to like it, but I really love Star Wars. And we, you know, saw the early 2000s movies together. I've gone to every Star Wars movie that has come out in my lifetime in the theater with my dad. It's a cool bonding experience we have. So this is an IP that means a lot to me. And I played Star Wars games in the early 2000s. I don't remember a lot about them. I didn't play the original Battlefront, I don't believe. But last year's iteration of, or 2 years ago's iteration of Star Wars was interesting to me, but the novelty of it wore off fairly quickly because there wasn't a lot of depth in the game. There was no campaign, and I said this before in this video, but there wasn't a lot of skill gap to it. I mean, the great Battlefield players, I felt, were really great at that game. It's made in the vein of Battlefield, you know, point and click and, you know, tactics and all that stuff. But at the same time, the hero spawns were random on the map, and there were just, it was, I don't know, it wasn't a terrible game. It needed more. And Star Wars Battlefront 2 definitely heard that criticism. The game developers heard that criticism, and I like the point system of you earn points on the battlefield and then you can buy the heroes, and anyone could do it, and there's strategy involved in that. If you have one player on your team who's really good with Darth Maul, you kind of boost them up to get that Darth Maul, and you get that Darth Maul as quickly as possible. And if one player on your team is a great fighter pilot, you can work together as a team, and there's more strategy to it, as opposed to, hey, the fucking Luke spawn just spawned on a snowy hill. Can someone go run and grab that? And I hope you're good with Luke Skywalker. Be there before the other team, too. Like, there's no strategy in that. There's actually strategy in this. It makes sense. It was fun to play, but I only played it for a half hour 3 times. So the math in my head says that was an hour and a half. But we were doing the same thing over and over again, and I don't feel like I got a great feel for it. It's a game that I became more excited for after playing it at E3, which isn't always the case. But I know that things are really exciting at E3, so I try not to. I've lived off that hype before, and I try to remind myself when I get home and there's not all the lights flashing and all the presentations. At the end of the day, it has to be a good game. So I'm really hopeful for that game, and I became more hyped for it after playing it. Next up, Xbox press conference was on Sunday. I went to that last year, but it was more fun this year because I was around a lot of other YouTubers. Legion was there with his lovely girlfriend, and Hova was there, and a bunch of other YouTubers that we don't get to see very often. We got to talk to them a while before the press conference started, so that made me really happy. And then the press conference started. The big reveal was what Project Scorpio was going to be, what its new name was going to be, its consumer name. Xbox One X is what it's called. I kind of like Project Scorpio a little bit better. I'm still going to call it the Scorpio or something, but, you know, it's the Xbox One X is the thing. It was slim. It was cool. I think the price point is good for what you're getting with that console, but, you know, I don't have a huge opinion on that one way or another. A console is a console, and you know, it's great. The specs are great, and I thought it was going to be $600, but it was $500, so it's always good when you overshoot the price, and then it comes out that it's less. So it is what it is. Should be fun. And but my biggest takeaway from the entire press conference is that they got PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, and it is exclusive. I said on Twitter that I hope this isn't wrong, because I talked to 2 people who work for Microsoft, and they said, no, this is not a timed exclusive. I said on Twitter that they got pub exclusive, PUBG, whatever you want to call it, and that's huge, and people were like, it's a timed exclusive, it's a timed exclusive, it's going to come to PlayStation 2. No, they said, the Microsoft people I talked to said that it is not a timed exclusive. They are the only console getting PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, and that is huge if they can get that game out quickly and it's effective. And from what I've heard, I mean, I don't know when it's coming out. I think, did they say it was going to come out in the fall? Because I know I've talked to people that have played it on Xbox already, and they had a great time doing it. So I'm excited about that. I'm still going to play PUB on PC, but I'm obviously going to try it on console. And there is not really a Battle Royale game for the console right now. It's kind of this weird outlier on PC. Well, it kind of makes sense that it's not on console because it takes so much to be able to handle a game like that. That's something that the Xbox One X is going to be good for. But I just thought that was huge, and everyone in the room was cheering. That was a really big thing, especially in the room. I'm not sure how it played at home. Anthem looks interesting. That was the closer, so you know that they felt it was really important. From BioWare, makers of Mass Effect. I never played Mass Effect. My friend Sidearms is a huge fan of the Mass Effect series, but I'm interested in the game. The demo looked cool. Crackdown 3 was cool with Terry Crews as the like big presenter. Like, yeah, I'm so excited. But I never played any Crackdown games. I just thought that trailer, whatever it was, demo trailer Terry Crews personality on screen thing was interesting, and I know some of my friends played it, so maybe you'll see footage from that on their channel soon. I don't know. And last thing I took away from the Xbox press conference is that Cuphead game looks really fucking cool. I don't know what it is, but I really like art in games. I think that's what draws me to Borderlands so much, one of my favorite series of all time, just because of the art of the game. And the art in Cuphead looks really crazy, weird, cool. I guess that game was announced 2 years ago. I did not remember it, but seeing it at the Xbox press conference, I was like, this looks fucking like acid trip 1930s cartoon. So whatever that is, I'm interested in it. Next, I wanted to talk about the Sony press conference. I might be skipping over the Nintendo Ubisoft press conferences in terms of the timeline of the week, but I have that as the next thing I was going to talk about after Sony. My big takeaway from the Sony press conference is actually what was not there. There was no Death Stranding. Even though, I'm sorry, I wrote his name down because I feel like I say it wrong. Hideo Kojima. There's so many amazing Japanese game creators in the world, and I say their names incorrectly. So I apologize for being so American. He was at E3. I know because fucking Hova saw him. He was in his hotel. He was in the same hotel as all of the Nintendo people, at least the big Nintendo people. And I don't know why there was no Death Stranding, because I thought that was a really cool game with Daryl from Walking Dead that was presented last year, but I guess they're just taking more time to develop it. I thought I was going to see something from that game, and no Last of Us 2. I still have to get through my original Last of Us playthrough on my second channel, and in general, my big takeaway from E3 is that I need to play more fucking games, because I like games when I play them, but I just get comfortable playing the same thing over and over and over again, which isn't great for creating content, but is great for me wasting time alone at home. So none of those games, but there were some things I saw that were interesting. Days Gone, I believe, was Sony's closer last year, and that's important to me. What's your opener and what's your closer? Because those are two things that you want to focus on in the press conference. If you're opening with something, you're saying this is the most important thing we have to tell you all year, and if you're closing with something, you're saying this is the thing we're most excited about. Usually, that's in my head how I take it. I don't know how you guys take it. And Days Gone was the closer last year, I believe, and this year they had a more detailed demo of the game. One thing I'm kind of concerned with is how many post-apocalyptic zombies games there are. I mean, maybe not every video game has to be after the world has ended or something terrible has happened and there are mutants and or zombies that you're fighting against. I guess the balance of good versus evil plays out well in those types of games, and that's good for storytelling. You know who the good guy is, you know who the bad guys are, and then you fight them and hopefully good triumphs. But the Days Gone demo looked a lot more interesting than it did. I think last year you would consider it a teaser, and this was more of a demo because the characters were talking to other characters, and it kind of showed some of the tactics that you use in the game. So I really liked what I saw from that game. The Spider-Man gameplay looked cool. It kind of looks like a mishmash of a bunch of different games. When you're fighting an enemy, it's like a traditional fighting type game where you're using tactics and moves and you're using the environment to fight. And then when he's swinging around the city, he's kind of running on walls. That reminds me of Titanfall. How, I was thinking this game could not happen 5-6 years ago and look so good. And then there was also something where he was running on a beam and you had to hit X. So kind of it just looks like a mashup of a bunch of different type of games, and I hope that works out. I would love for it to be kind of like Arkham Knight, but for a Marvel IP or whatever you would want to say. I'd like more gritty comic book games. It doesn't look particularly gritty. It's pretty colorful, but if you fight a lot of enemies and there's a cool story around it, I'm in on that game. So I'm interested to see. I keep saying that I'm interested. When in reality, I'm gonna play like 5 games this fall, but I want to play more games. So that looked cool to me. Also, the Inpatient. This is the biggest thing I took away from Sony's press conference. A lot of you, maybe not a lot of you, but some of you guys know that I did a Let's Play on my channel of Until Dawn, a game that I believe came out 2 years ago. And it was from this studio. I can't remember the studio's name, but they're also making the Impatient. And it was a really fun game. A lot of people on YouTube and Twitch played it. I really, really loved it and thought to myself, why are there not more games like this? Kind of like a story, but there's also gameplay and you're making choices that are life or death decisions. So it was really fun. And they're making this game called The Impatient, which is a spin-off of Until Dawn. Not entirely sure how it's going to be related, but the sanatorium was in Until Dawn that is in this gameplay teaser, demo, trailer thing, whatever you want to call it. So it's related to Until Dawn in some way. The only thing I didn't like about it is a VR game. I don't know how I feel about games that are completely VR. I would still prefer to just play a game on my console, mainly out of convenience, because if you want to experience a VR game, you gotta stand up, and maybe I don't have to stand up. Maybe I can just put the thing over my face, and then my head gets all sweaty, and my wife walks in from work, and she looks at me and just sees me with a fucking computer on my head, and just, I'm so scared, and she just looks, and she's like, that's what I married. Okay. And, you know, she loses all sexual interest in me for a week, so that's not super appealing to me still, but I loved Until Dawn so much I'll give it a chance. Nintendo/Ubisoft press conferences. My thoughts on these two will be short. Oh, I didn't write down Bethesda's press conference. I don't know if I even took anything away from that. I was hanging out with Speedy and Hova and Speedy's girlfriend during that time. I don't remember I didn't watch the Bethesda press conference. I also didn't watch the Sony press conference because it was the same time as one of the finals games, but I watched it later, so I have no thoughts on the Bethesda conference. I hope nothing super interesting happened. I know they didn't announce like a new Fallout or anything like that, they made Wolfenstein, or they announced Wolfenstein. I was going to talk about that later though, because that was stuff I saw on the E3 floor. Whatever. A Nintendo Ubisoft big takeaway. I don't know what the fuck Beyond Good and Evil is, and it made me feel like I shouldn't be in the video games industry because everyone was jerking off about Beyond Good and Evil. It was like people went crazy. It would be like if I was in a basketball stadium and LeBron James walks onto the floor and everyone starts cheering, and I'm like, who the fuck is LeBron James? Why are we clapping for him? I don't know who that is. And I asked a couple other people, they're like, I don't know what Beyond Good and Evil is, but apparently it was a cult PS2/GameCube classic in the early 2000s, and they're remaking that game. So that was the big takeaway, I feel like, from the Ubisoft press conference. Cool. Assassin's Creed Origins. Okay. And the Skull and Bone game, it's going to be like Skull and Bone versus Sea of Thieves for interactive pirate games. Who's going to win? I don't know if they can both exist, but I'm interested in games where I can play with my friends and we're in an environment and we do stuff. So that's what interests me about Sea of Thieves and what interests me about Skull and Bones. I believe it's Skull and Bone. So those games are interesting, but that was whatever. And from the Nintendo conference, I'm kind of interested in Super Mario Odyssey. I said before I left for E3, when I made my little E3 preview video, that I'm not the biggest Nintendo fan. I had a Nintendo 64 growing up. It was actually my first console, and I loved all the early Nintendo games. As an adult, I haven't really gotten into any of the Wiis, and I don't really have the cash for a Switch right now, so I can't play any Switch games, and that's fine with me because, like I said, I'm not a hardcore Nintendo fan anyway. However, Super Mario Odyssey does look interesting because it looks like, what's it called? Mario... Is it Mario 64? Super Mario 64? And I played that game with my brother, and that was fun. We rented it. We didn't own it. But I like the wacky kind of, this is the world that Mario's in, and he's doing stuff type Nintendo games. So I guess that's something I might consider getting a Switch for, a game like that. Before E3 started, my friends and I and our girls went to the Monstercat pre-3 party, which was worth noting in this video because I've been to it before, it's always a good time, but this one was the first time I saw Ice Poseidon in person, and my friends and I talk about him and his daily activities often in our group chat. So I saw him in person, and he didn't have the whole live stream set up, but he was walking around talking to chicks and stuff, so that was cool. Talk to some, that type of thing when the music is blaring and you have to scream. My chest hurt after that because there was a lot of people I wanted to talk to there, particularly Evan Vanas. Hadn't seen him in about a year or maybe like 8 months. Talked to him for a while, but you can only talk to one person at a time because you have to scream at them essentially. And then talk to some people I hadn't talked to in a while and just hung out and had a good time. So that was notable, the Monstercat party. The following day at 6 a.m., so I only had about 4 hours of sleep, myself and Hova and many other YouTubers who you've seen videos from went to capture Call of Duty World War II footage. We were some of the first people in the world to play the game outside of the studio. I think we were the first people in the world to play the game outside of the studio, and maybe some people that they have test out the game outside of their studio. But that was an early morning, had a bagel, got really hyped. Michael Condrey gave like a pregame speech, and it got everyone in the room super excited. And I was really happy with how many YouTubers were there, and not just YouTubers like the typical people you would see, T Martin, Chaos, Allier, whatever, you know, all those people that I see at those types of events. But there were a lot of smaller YouTubers there too. They had about 60 people playing at once, and it was a lot of channels with just a couple thousand subscribers. So I thought that was really awesome to see Activision diversifying the types of people you're going to see playing their games going forward. In terms of the actual game, very violent. I was not... When I saw the multiplayer trailer, my first thought was that was fucking violent, and the game was also violent, which I think is good because it was the bloodiest war in history, in modern history, and the game should represent how violent and how terrible this war was, but it was a good cause to fight for humanity and not Hitler. Speaking of Hitler and the Nazis, I'm great at talking about history. The most annoying thing to me is the comments I'm seeing about female soldiers and swastikas. This was annoying to all YouTubers because all YouTubers are getting comments about this. Is this an actual thing? I want to ask you guys, is this something that people are going to be talking about? The fact that instead of a swastika on the red flags, there was a black iron cross that I probably wouldn't have given any thought to had there not been comments about it. And the fact that there were a lot of female soldiers, that's what people are, it's like the internet always needs something to be upset about. I'm not surprised at this. It was a lot of comments on my gameplay video, and my gameplay video got more dislikes than I thought it would, and that's what a lot of my the other people I was talking to were like, yeah, we got more dislikes. And the only thing I can think about for other than Call of Duty being it's a polarizing game one way or the other is the comments I'm seeing about, you know, there were a lot of black soldiers or a lot of female soldiers, and that wasn't what actually happened in World War II. It's like, is this what really, like, what we fucking care about? I don't know. And we don't even know what the campaign is going to be like. I mean, they might not have that stuff in multiplayer, but still have it in the campaign. And I was thinking a few years ago that they would never go back to World War II anyway because of concerns about stuff like this with social media and people. We live in a culture that is extremely PC, and I do think that, you know, people need to be less sensitive about a lot of things. But if they want to make their multiplayer maps 95% historically accurate and then add in, I mean, maybe some of you would say, well, if there's women and no swastikas, then it's only like 40% accurate. I don't know. It didn't fucking matter to me, but I was surprised to see how much discontent there was over that. Other than that rant, the gameplay was really fun. The class system was interesting. I'd like to know how much more customizable it gets, because you were choosing from the different divisions of the army. I'm not sure if I said that correctly, but the airborne division and infantry and people who fought in the trenches. And that was kind of like what the class setups were. If you were airborne, you had a submachine gun. If you were infantry, you had an assault rifle. If you were a mountain fighter, you had a sniper. So I don't know how much more customizable that gets. Hopefully a little more than is currently set up, but I like that the guns they felt good and the game felt good. Snipers are probably going to be nerfed because some people were getting some insane sniping clips in very little time of playing that game. That was the game we got to play for the least amount of time, and I was really bummed. I actually had laptop issues. I have an old ass laptop. I have to try to get it fixed. I should have gotten it fixed before E3. I tried to get a new laptop, didn't have the cash, and I was like, well, I tried to get it fixed before in LA a couple days before recording, and it was going to be a lot of money, and it wasn't necessarily a guaranteed fix, so I didn't fix it, and that ended up costing me 2 games out of the 3 we got to play. I couldn't even record them, so that was really frustrating, but the gameplay was fun. Sorry to talk about that for so long. I just had a lot of thoughts about World War II, and wondering what you guys are thinking about it as well. Final thoughts on all the games. I just things I saw on the show floor. I only went on Wednesday. I try to, if I'm going to E3, try to only go to the conference center one day because it's usually crazy, and especially this year with the public, it was twice as crazy. There were so many people. There was a noticeable difference in how busy things were. but Wolfenstein 2 looked really interesting to me. I have not played the recent Wolfenstein games that have come out. I know this is a series of games that exist. I think it's as old as me. I know the early... when did this come out? The early 90s is when Wolfenstein started, or maybe the 80s. So this is a series that's been around for a long time, but I know the new games were praised, and Hova played them, my friend, and he liked them, and I wish I would have played them because I'm interested in alternate reality, World War II type stuff, The Man in the High Castle. I know that my dad liked that book, and I was reading that book, but then I stopped reading because it's a book. But I am interested in that stuff. So the Wolfenstein 2 trailer looked really crazy, wacky, cool, and that might be a game I'd be interested in playing later in the year. There was a Detroit Become Human demo on the floor. I didn't think there would be a playable demo on the floor. Maybe I just don't pay attention. It was near a Destiny 2 demo too, and those whole areas were packed. I didn't get to play either of those games. I was watching people play them, just kind of standing there like an awkward human, and that made me happy because that means Detroit Become Human should come out. There shouldn't be any delays. I think it was delayed once, but there shouldn't be further delays because there was a playable demo. So clearly it exists in some form, and people are going to get to play it. That's a game I said I'm very excited for. Another game I haven't played, Heavy Rain, from the makers of Heavy Rain. I should play that game, and it's about Detroit, and I don't know. I love Michigan, so I'm excited for all that stuff, and Destiny 2 looked cool from me watching it. And I also played some games from Rebellion. Is it Rebellion Developments? I always want to say Rebellion Developments. Rebellion Developments, the makers of Sniper Elite, and I'm going to have footage from those games, or maybe just one of the games on my channel probably this weekend. That was all my thoughts on games at E3. I'm sorry if I missed something. I have a terrible memory, and maybe I just wasn't interested in something you're interested in. Let me know what you guys thought about the games. Final thing from E3, my friends and I somehow ended up at a mansion party. A lot of YouTubers were at this mansion party, so I'm sure you've seen it, and some people who vlogs channels, like Syndicate, put it on his vlog channel, and it was crazy. It was a $16 million house, I believe, or maybe it was between $14 million and $16 million. There were like 40 bedrooms and bathrooms in the house, and we got an invite from one of our friends, and we were driving up the hill like, where is this going to be? We were driving up these windy Hollywood roads, and it was a mega party at this super mansion, and I saw almost every YouTuber that I have ever watched on the platform, short of like H3H3. He might have, maybe he wasn't there. I know he was at the Twitch Mixer the following day, but I saw like all these people I watch and all these people I've talked to and met before on YouTube. So that was a great time. By the time we got there, they ran out of alcohol. That was a bummer, but just being in a house that big was really cool. I wish I didn't even think to pull out my camera, because this is why I'm like a shit YouTuber too. I don't think the Instagram story either. I took like one really grainy picture, but I was just kind of sitting there the whole time like, wow. So this is what I do with my life, and this is normal for all of these people that just play video games. I'm so lucky to be able to do this job, and that's the value of E3. Meeting people in person who watch your videos, meeting other people who do this, and just saying, it is fucking crazy that we do this, you know? And just thinking about my future, you get super motivated from E3. So I'm going to try to ride that motivational wave all through June and into the fall. And I'm really, so I had this meeting, someone gave me a great suggestion. This is going to sound like, you know, simple advice, but sometimes you think so much about the complicated things, you forget the simple things. Someone was talking about how they revived their YouTube channel, and they said they bought a calendar from Office Depot, one of those big ass calendars that can, you know, just fit on your desk, and they wrote the dates of all the games that were coming out, and then they wrote like how they were going to prep for the games. Like say GTA 5 was going to come out. My friends and I actually did this without really writing this down, but before GTA 5 was coming out, we were playing a lot of GTA 4, and then you kind of get those search results, and you kind of get your audience prepared for that game. So before Red Dead Redemption comes out, Red Dead Redemption 2, I want to play a lot of Red Dead Redemption, and you know, get my audience ready for that game because I'm super excited for that game. And then I want to write out the release schedule of all games coming out in the next year so I can be more prepared for videos. I want to be on more of a schedule, and I have been. Earlier in the year, I just would like to continue that and actually make it a lot more structured later in the year and get a lot more advanced with it, as a lot of YouTubers are, especially just like T Martin and Allier. And when you talk to some YouTubers about what their daily schedule is like, you think to yourself, I am the laziest human on earth. So that was valuable to me, and I'm sorry this video was so long. I know some of you guys appreciate it. Just want to hear me talk in the background. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you thought about E3 2017, and I'll be posting probably 3 or 4 videos this weekend, at least 2, but probably 3, maybe 4. So look for that on my channel. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a great day.